Ready.
Welcome to episode 58.5. So I don't normally do this, but I forgot something that I wanted to talk about that I mentioned in my last podcast, episode 58, verbal cues. This is still part of section F on verbal cues, part of my beginning agility workbook series. And that was how I remember what cues to give on course. And it is one of my hardest things for me to remember to actually give the cue because I did not grow up in verbals. They don't come naturally to me. So I really have to work hard to think about them and to give them effectively. All right, so how do I remember that I even want to use a verbal cue? One of the things that I do for myself is I have what I call trigger stacking moments in a walkthrough. I have a very methodical way that I walk a course, generally. When I'm walking a course, once I get to the point of my walkthrough where I am confident in what handling I'm going to use, so I'm pretty sure this is my plan A, this is what I'm going to do, then I really start to do what I call trigger stacking for my verbals and also my hand signals, but those are way more fluent than my verbals are. And so when I'm looking at my walkthrough, I try and plan the best place for telling myself, give the verbal, give this verbal, say this to your dog. Let's say that the course is going to go jump, tunnel, dog walk. And I want to give him as early information on that dog walk as possible. What I will say to myself in my walkthrough is as I pass the jump prior to the tunnel, I will say to myself, as he enters the tunnel, don't forget to cue the dog walk. So I'm putting the dog walk trigger cue on the jump and the tunnel prior. So 2 obstacles prior. I want me to start thinking about the dog walk cue that is coming up. And so I will trigger stack tunnel equals dog walk. And the jump prior, I will try and remind myself, don't forget to tell him dog walk as he enters the tunnel. So I try and talk myself through this during my walkthrough. And so instead of just thinking about the tunnel, I'm actually thinking 2-3 obstacles prior about what is coming up. And at the exact same time, I also try and place my location. You will be here or try to be here, or as you get to here, do this. And I will constantly do that throughout my walkthrough over and over and over again. I will look at lines on the floor to help remind me, do this, do that, say this, say that, go this way, cue this way to help my brain trigger what I'm doing next. And so that really, really helps me to get my verbals out early enough for him to process them and perform them. Now, does it always go perfectly? No, absolutely not. But it is a learning process of him and me giving each other as much information as possible, as soon as possible, so that we can continue on down the course. In my last trial, I was actually thrown in his behavior and my behavior, and it resulted in a fly off of the teeter. So there was a backside line to a tight turn jump to the teeter. And he got the backside. He dropped the bar, and that kind of hit me. I'm like, oh, dang, he knocked the bar. We just end cued. And so because that bar dropped, it threw my brain just a little bit, and I failed to give him a good check cue, a good tight turn cue for the next jump. And as a result, he took the jump really, really wide. And because he took the jump really wide, I was trying to manage the turn for the entrance to the teeter because it was really wide. He was coming up really ugly on the teeter. And I knew that he was going to potentially be in a yucky spot on entrance of the teeter. And because I was managing verbally, trying to get him to come in tighter, I failed to give my teeter cue in time. And he hit the entrance of the teeter and he flew right off of it. He did try and stop, but it was far too late. The teeter, he was sliding much too late and he couldn't hold the board. And so he ended up falling off the end of the teeter or bailing, just jumping. It wasn't a complete jump off. He wasn't scared. He was just like, I didn't have any time to break. You gave me not enough warning. That happens, right? That happens. And it's okay. I just reset up the exact same scenario. So I put him back on the backside, back on the jump for the turn, and then gave him the teeter cue earlier. But I went more with the teeter cue than I did with the turning cues. And he definitely was like, yep, this is the teeter. And he stopped in a much better location. The verbals aren't perfect, right? Our handling isn't going to be perfect. It's okay, right? The moments that we do have perfection are to be celebrated, by you anyway. You don't have to celebrate with others, but recognize when you are in full connection, like, wow, that felt really good. But it's also okay to have moments where, man, that felt really rough, but we saved it. And then, oh man, that felt really rough. And I need to keep training. I need to keep learning my dog's cues. And what makes it interesting and difficult and just agility, what makes agility fascinating is how difficult it is, because it looks easy, but it's not. There's always bumps in the road. Even the best out there have bad runs. They have runs that are not optimal. What makes it fascinating is that it's an evolution over time. So as you continue to grow with your dog and your dog continues to learn and learn your skills, learn your language, they learn to predict you, then everything starts to come together. And there's a few years where it is just magical to run a dog. I mean, literally, like, wow, we are in connection. But it can take years to get there, literal years to get there, because the dog evolves, the handler evolves, and we evolve with the courses, and we learn new things, and we go home and we retrain and we restructure how we're going to run a course. The courses that I ran 25 years ago are not the same courses that we are running today. They are just completely different, they're faster, they're more technical. It's really amazing. And I love the growth that we've had. But the Team USA members that were running European courses even 10 years ago are completely different Team USA courses run today. They've just evolved, and we're evolving with them. And I absolutely love it. For me, I have to evolve with it, which means that I have to retrain my brain on how to react to verbals, when to react to verbals, when to cue my dog with the verbal. And I have to keep training my dog. This is what this word means, over and over and over again, in different contexts, with different obstacles, in configuration with each other, different sequences. But it's hard for me, and I have to work really hard at it to remember to say my word, to remember what word means what word I want where. And so I'm constantly giving myself reminders, trying to stack verbals within obstacle courses so that it can remind me, don't forget to say this, don't forget to do this. But it works for me. And I'm sure that there are lots of other strategies out there for how to remember verbals. I say to my students constantly, agility is mental Sudoku. It is teaching our brains, we are rewiring our brains how to remember things, how to bring things out in a quick reactionary manner over and over and over again on agility course. So I think it's a great way to prevent getting old, personally. All right. Happy training. Good luck with all your verbals. Have fun training them. Woof, woof.